Hello everyone, I am Dory, I am an English teacher, and today I will give you some basic information about the IELTS academic reading and some general tips about the strategy we follow. The academic reading is the most challenging section of all, and it consists of 3 separate texts. These texts are taken from newspapers, magazines, books, website articles, and they focus on general matters. The first text and the second one will ask you to answer to 13 questions, while the third one will ask you to answer to 14 questions. So there's a total of 40 questions that you have to answer in 60 minutes. Be careful here because you're not going to have extra time in the end to transfer your answers in the separate answer sheet as in listening. So please bear in mind that you have to answer every question and fill in the answer sheet in these 60 minutes. Each correct answer takes 1 mark. All 3 texts consist of 2 to 3 tasks with questions based on the information you get from the text. So please don't use your logic, your knowledge, or any accepted universal truth or anything to answer the questions, but use only the information and the proof that you find in the text in order to justify your answers. Unless, of course, you cannot find an answer, so in this case you can just guess something. Don't leave questions unanswered or blank. You've got nothing to lose. Okay, so now the first text is going to be at about 900 words long, the second one the same, but the third one is going to be a little bit longer at about 950 words or so, and their difficulty is increasing, with the first text being the easiest, the second one a little bit harder, and the third one the most difficult, but not too much compared to the other two, so please don't worry about that. Since you have only 60 minutes to answer the questions for all 3 texts, you should organize your time accordingly. You should spend approximately 20 minutes in each text, and please try to keep it that way. Some things may change. For example, you may want to spend at about 15 to 17 minutes during the first text, which is the easiest and not that long, and leave more time in this way for the last one, which is the longest. But this is entirely up to you. It really helps if you time yourself while you practice. This will give you an idea of how it's going to be on the day of the exam, and you are going to get used to organizing your time accordingly and effectively. All in all, in academic reading, as you can tell by the name, all they ask you to do is that you should be able to understand academic texts. But not only in terms of main ideas and general information, but also in terms of details, and you should also be able to follow the writer's opinion through the texts, through each paragraph. Now, in these 60 minutes, please do not expect to read every passage word per word and answer the questions. You can't make it, that's impossible. The most challenging thing in academic reading is the limitation of time. But there are certain strategies and tips that can help you with that. Some people suggest that you should start from the questions straight away, see what you are asked to do, and then go and find this information in the texts. Other people suggest that you should start with the texts, a quick reading, just to get the gist of it, and then go to the questions, see what you're asked to do, and go again to find the answers in the text. So there is no right or wrong way. During your preparation, I'm sure you're going to find the way that works best for you, but I will tell you my own strategy, which is kind of a combination of the two, and this is what I tell my students in the first place. The first time you see the text, 1, 2, 3, doesn't really matter, the first thing you see is the title, a big bold heading, and then a chaos of words and paragraphs here and there, and you know you don't have the time to read everything and you don't know where to start. I know that teachers keep telling you to just skim through for the gist, just to get an idea and then move on to the questions. Don't get me wrong, I think this is a great advice, but sometimes it can get tricky. I mean, I've had students that were carried away and ended up reading the whole paragraph or even the whole text, losing valuable time, and then they were more confused than before. I also have students that read through the text just to get the gist, but if the text was not their cup of tea or something that they liked, or it was kind of difficult, they got overwhelmed by the text and then moved on to the questions, confused, having lost time because they didn't understand the text through the gist. So I have seen all these behaviors and even more, and I came to the conclusion that when we are exposed to something new, in this case the reading text, and our time is limited, our mind works best with specific information than with general information here and there that we might not even get. Our mind loves specific information. And now you're going to tell me, oh, okay, so maybe we should start from the questions without paying any attention to the text, read the questions very carefully, see what we're asked to do, and then move on to the text to find this specific information. Well, I'm not saying exactly that, because let's just say you start from the questions, read them very well through, underline keywords, understand what they ask you to find, and then what do? You go back to the reading text in order to find it. So you start searching for specific information through the paragraphs, and if you don't find a keyword or a paraphrased keywords right away, what do? You end up reading the whole thing again until you find something. Now, I'm not telling you that these two strategies do not work at all. Of course they do work, they're great advice, and they should work for some of you out there. And if they do, please do not change anything or your strategy that you have found that it works best for you, because when we have a team that wins, we don't change it, right? But this strategy that I'm going to suggest is for those of you that haven't found their personal way that works best for them. What I suggest is something in between. For example, when you first see the reading text, just read the title, first things first, read the title to know what the text is about, and then very quickly, almost mechanically, just read and underline only the first 2 lines of each paragraph. Only that. Don't keep reading the paragraph even if it doesn't have a full stop. Just the first 2 lines, and then move on to the next paragraph. The first 2 lines, read and underline them. Believe me, I have seen it with my students. It really works. For example, let's just say that well, this is the reading passage that you're going to see. Nuclear energy is the subject of this passage, and these are the paragraphs. Okay, you just read the title, oh my god, nuclear energy, don't get overwhelmed, and just underline the first 2 lines of each paragraph and read them. Okay, usually the writers of the articles get straight to the point from the first line, so you know from the first line what they're gonna say in each paragraph. So, in this way, you get both the gist of the text and your mind is not overwhelmed through a lot of details, because it has focused on specific information through underlining. Sometimes you even get to see keywords through paragraphs among the words almost instantly. I have seen that. It really works. So after you have read and underlined the first 2 lines of each paragraph, then you move on to the questions. Now, each task in academic reading is going to be different in terms of strategy, but in the following videos we're going to examine in detail each and every task and the strategy we follow. What I can tell you now in general as a tip is that underlining is your friend. when you read the questions and what you're asked to do or find in the text, just underline keywords that will help you find the answer in the text. Okay? After that, you return to the text and try to scan through the paragraphs in order to find the correct answer. You already have an idea of what is going on in the text because you have read the first 2 lines of each paragraph, and so use these lines as a guide in order to find the information you need. Scanning between the lines here is really going to help you. Hopefully our goal is to get most questions correct and be on time. So, recap. First of all, read the title. Secondly, skim through the text very quickly by reading and underlining the first 2 paragraphs, the first 2 lines of each paragraph. Thirdly, go to the questions of each task and see what they ask you to find and underline keywords. 4. Return to the text and scan through in order to find proof for the answers. In general, another useful tip is that the more vocabulary you know, the better in academic reading. That is very true. So start enriching your vocabulary by reading English newspapers, web articles, blog posts that, well, of course, they are written in English, magazines, etc. Of course, English books is a very good option. Literature is always a good option, and there is also the academic word list on the internet with the words you should know. I will put the link down below. Another thing you can do is that you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook and Google+, in which all 3 pages I post every day the words of the day. I think this is a fun way to enrich your vocabulary. I will put the links down below. Of course, the most important thing of all is practice. Practice makes perfect, right? So do practice tests. There are millions of them online. You can find them for free, and it could also help to time yourself. And now, last but not least, another important thing is the way you see it. What I mean is, if you start moaning and groaning about academic reading, this is not going to get you very far. I know that sometimes you may get frustrated. For example, what? My answer is wrong? No, I have found proof for it. Here's the justification. It is correct. It's not wrong. I don't understand. This is not fair. This was a tricky question, etc. I have heard them all. Believe me, I know all these things, but instead of getting frustrated about it, maybe pretend that you're playing a game and try to understand its logic. You know, it may be difficult, but this is the only thing you can do. Pretend that you have a quest to complete in 1 hour, in 60 minutes, and you are timed for it. Since it is a quest, it's not going to be very easy, so let's just hope that you're not going to lose a life. Just like a video game, you know? Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck with the exam.